Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. Now, what you're about to see is a pre-recorded training session we did over in the United States. But be assured that a lot of the material that we cover is really applicable to any automotive application. So just be aware that yes, it is a lot of North American vehicles, but a lot of the same principles apply over in the UK as well. Now, if you have any questions, if you're watching this during the premiere, you can just leave it in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. And if you're watching this after the premiere, then just feel free to leave a comment underneath the video, and we'll get to those as we can as well. So my name is Jason Gabrenas. I'm one of Snap-on Diagnostics technical trainers. I've been in the training department since 2013, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple years as a diagnostic sales rep at Snap-on, so I had a group of about 30 different franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they service, in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before I did that, it was 8 years at Subaru, so I worked in a dealership, and over time, I guess, I just became that default diag guy in the shop. So I always ended up having the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type cars that had come into my bay. Then before that, a bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years under hood experience for me. So our topic at hand today is we are continuing our OEM-specific ADAS training we've been doing all year, and the OEM of the hour is CDJR, or Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. So that whole umbrella, Stellantis, I guess you could call them now. They've changed hands so many times in the last few years. It's hard to keep up, but Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, as it were. That's kind of long to put on the page, so we abbreviate it. So they use very much across the board, from what I'm seeing. They're using pretty much the same stuff, like the same radars, the same cameras across the board, which makes it easier. They're in a couple different places across the years, so we're going to talk about some of those little differences in there. But by and large, the procedures are pretty much the same. You just got to make sure you read through them really well, just to make sure you're not missing anything or doing a different step than you should be doing. But that, much like every other manufacturer out there, they use radars, they use cameras, and they use ultrasonic sensors out there for all the different things that manufacturers use. So let's look first at this 2022 Jeep Wrangler. It has multiple radar units. Actually, it's three. So rear blind spot monitor and one in the front for the cruise control. They have two cameras, the front view and rear view cameras. Also could be optioned with surround view cameras. It just depends on the vehicle. And then 8 ultrasonic sensors for front and rear park assist. So the front camera that's up in the windshield area there, right by the rear view mirror, you can see that right there. Pretty much the same across the board. And that would be accessed through the driver assistance system module. So this and the front radar are accessed through the driver assistance system module. So if I go into miscellaneous functions, I go to your driver assistance system mode or module. Forward-facing camera and adaptive cruise control sensor are integrated into the driver assist module. The procedure calibrates both the camera and the sensor, so the radar. Perform this procedure only when the module itself has been replaced, the windshield has been replaced, and the module is reinstalled. Vehicle height has been modified, which could be pretty common on a Wrangler, I would think, or any of these codes show up. So we'll hit continue. And then before performing this procedure, vertical alignment must be completed using a digital inclinometer. Has the vertical alignment been completed? So that's using a digital gauge, kind of put on the radar, make sure it is vertically level. So you do that manually, much like other manufacturers out there. They do the same type of thing. You put the thing on there, make sure it's 90 degrees, and then horizontal is covered with the scan tool. Also asked, has vehicle ride height been modified from stock height? Note, ride height modifications include lifted suspension or different tire diameters from stock. So like I said, could be pretty likely on a Wrangler. So it does ask for that. And then procedure requires the vehicle to be driven. So make sure you're ready to drive it once you start the procedure. Do not cycle the ignition off at any time while this procedure is performed. If the ignition is cycled off, the procedure must be restarted from the beginning. Both the adaptive cruise control sensor and the forward-facing camera will be calibrated during this procedure. Alignment will progress only when the vehicle is above 30 miles an hour, and it'll stop when it goes below 30 miles an hour. Drive on roads with guardrails, telephone poles, signs, and other common roadside objects. Expected alignment is about 7 minutes with optimal road conditions. It may take longer during poor visibility, inclement weather, etc. And then it would go through and do its thing. Okay, front camera number 2 is in the grill. So if it has the 360 camera option, it would be right there in the grill. You can kind of see it kind of in the middle of the grill. And the rear camera I thought was kind of interesting on this. Since most Wranglers have their spare tire on the back because that's just where it's mounted, they put the camera in the middle of the spare tire. So it's right there, the rear camera. So kind of interesting if you think about it, because I see a lot of Jeeps rolling down the road with covers on the back. So if you put a spare tire cover on this, it will not, obviously the camera will not work. Now, I would imagine there are covers that have a hole in it for that, or maybe it's just not recommended to use a tire cover on this, but if it's equipped and you have the tire cover over it, it's not going to work. Just to be aware. And the surround view stuff is going to be processed by the Central Vision Processing Module, the CVPM there. So we have codes, data, miscellaneous functions, and then we have a CVPM service calibration. So this will allow you to calibrate the miscellaneous cameras, calibrates the front, rear, left, and right cameras. To view progress, touch the surround view camera button in the radio display. So you can see the progress in the radio itself, or you can see it once you actually get into the test, because it'll show you the progress on the screen. Offers a few options. One is a forced calibration, regardless of whether the camera's already been calibrated. You can do just the cameras with invalid calibrations, or each camera individually if you wish to do so. Now, in this case, the vehicle must be driven between 2 and 8 miles an hour in a straight line. Ensure that both front doors are closed, mirrors are extended, and nothing is obstructing the camera's view. That way, it can get the whole lay of the land there, and make sure they're calibrated. And then it'll give you the calibration status here in the data when you go in there. So you can either watch there or you can watch on the dash. Front radar, it's going to be down there kind of in the lower area there. And rear radar is actually, in this case, it is integrated with the taillights. So on the taillights on this Jeep, it's kind of part and parcel built together. Parking assist is going to be your standard ultrasonic sensor with maybe a couple adapter plates there, and then the front and rear bumpers. 2017 Grand Cherokee is our next model. Has 3 radars, so adaptive cruise control, and blind spot monitor, and rear cross traffic alert. 2 cameras, one front view, one rear view. This one doesn't have the surround view as the Wrangler did, a little older. And 12 ultrasonic sensors, front and rear park assist, and then parallel park assist as well. So front cameras, same type of deal, probably even the same model up in the roof there. But in this vehicle, it's not integrated into one module. It's actually separate. So we have a forward-facing camera module here. And that's where that one goes. Miscellaneous functions, we have a calibration. We'll calibrate the forward-facing camera module. It should be performed whenever the forward-facing camera module or windshield is replaced. The vehicle will need to be driven to perform this procedure. So very similar to what we experienced on the Wrangler. Tire pressure needs to be correct. No additional items in the vehicle to increase the weight. Windshield clean, camera unobstructed view. So just make sure it's kind of at baseline, like rolling off the factory. I'm not going to go through all these different things. But roadway has to be straight, lane markings, no cross patterns, nothing weird going on. Do it during the middle of the day instead of at sunset or sunrise. 25 and 74 miles an hour. 10 to 12 car lengths ahead of you. Good luck with that around here anyway. Make sure no other vehicles in a lane are merging ahead within 10 or 12 car lengths. If you see 10 or 12 car lengths ahead of you in my neck of the woods, they're going to try and fit 13 cars in there. So driving the center lane is preferred, and driving begin driving within 30 to 60 seconds after selecting continue. So you need to be ready to drive, and then hit continue and go. Rear camera is just kind of built into the where the handle is, and license plate lights, that sort of thing, the little fascia in the back. Front radar is going to be a similar situation to the Wrangler, but in this case, since it's not built in, it's going to built into the driver assist. It's going to be adaptive cruise control. And we have miscellaneous functions there, and then we have the driver assist module drive calibration. Once again, it's going to drive. So ensure the sensor is mounted correctly, no damage to the fascia. Successful calibration of the sensor is dependent on correct alignment of the sensor and fascia. Procedure requires the vehicle to be driven. And it could throw these codes. Start the initialization. It puts it in plant mode, which is basically factory mode. Turn key off, open and close the door to let the bus go to sleep. And then cycle the ignition on again. And then exiting plant mode there. And then it'll initialize the ECU, and it'll go through and do its thing. and then you would drive the vehicle. Rear radar is going to be on the back corners, built into the bumper, or mounted to the bumper, or inside the bumper anyways. And in that case, we do have blind spot sensors, left and right. Codes data, no functional test, no relearn for that. Park assist is going to be your standard park assist sensors, but however, in the Parktronics system, we do have some functions where we can configure the license plate size. So if I have an odd license plate size, for this example, it starts off as Swiss standard, USA, Japan, Europe, Swiss, Italy, rear only, that sort of thing. And then sensor wiring. This allows the Parktronics module to run sensor tests that normally run when the vehicle is moving. Tests should be used to ensure that the sensors have been wired correctly after replacement. So it'll go do an automated test, kind of give you a pass, fail, or status at the end of that. Then we have 2019 Charger. 3 radars, adaptive cruise control, rear blind spot, rear cross traffic, front view and rear view cameras, and 11 ultrasonic sensors, front rear park assist, and parallel park assist. Front camera, same type of deal, up in the windshield. That is, once again, the forward-facing camera module to redo that. Front radar, very similar. Adaptive cruise control. We're not going to go through all the screens again. The rear radar, it's going to be kind of in the where the bracketry is, or the bracing. You see how it's got a little cubby there. And that would be my left and right blind spot sensors. Once again, codes and data. No resets or relearns. And then we have park assist, going to be mounted in the rear bumper and the front bumper, as would be expected. And that has a similar Parktronics system there as well. Now, just remember, to reiterate, hopefully you'd be aware of this by now, because it's been going on for about 7 years, but any of these vehicles, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, require gateway access on the newer ones anyways, 18 and newer, right? So we did see a 17 that wouldn't have needed it. But anything 18 and newer pretty much is going to need this, because you cannot do a reset or a relearn or anything that sends a command to the vehicle without accessing through the gateway. So just be aware, everything kind of needs to be in its place. Usernames and passwords need to be in the correct places. Tools need to be registered with AutoAuth. Credit card needs to be current with AutoAuth. That's the third party that manages it. Like I said, it's been going on for like 7 years, but still we get phone calls on the daily from one reason or another. It doesn't work. And there's many different reasons why it might not work. Something not being in the right place at the right time. So I usually advise, if you have one of our tools and if you are having issues trying to get through any gateways, because it's not just on Chrysler, but if you're having an issue getting through any of the gateways, call our tech support, because they have access to all sorts of information that your dealer wouldn't have access to or anything like that. Databases and where the tool's registered and stuff like that. So they can help you out and make sure everything's in the right place and working the way it should. So if you ever have an issue with security access, call tech support and they can help you out. All right, so let's go live on the tool, see what we can see. So we'll pull up the Wrangler first. And we'll pop in here. I did want to pop in, I didn't do this on the earlier class, but I do want to go look in here. Open the secure gateway. We're unlocked. Okay. So I wanted to go in there and look at the driver assist system module again, because I want to see modify from stock height. Let's say it was. So ride height must be measured. So you need to do a ride height measurement before you can do it. Park the vehicle on level surface, properly inflate the tires, etc. And then it has a place to enter it. So driver's side ride height, passenger side, or driver's side ride height, front drivers. Okay, and then it just goes through the same thing. So above 30, don't drop below 30, etc. I'm going to cancel out of that, but I had not seen what happens when you say, yes, it has been modified. So that's good to know. Also on many newer vehicles, if we have guided component tests on our tool, so that'd be anything with a scope that Snap-on makes, it's going to have guided component test database in there. And there's actually a section for drivers' aids and ADAS. So you can go in here In this example on the Wrangler, we can see the blind spot monitoring sensor, cruise control, and park assist. So if we go to blind spot, it's going to say above 6 miles an hour for an object detected in the blind spot. Tail lamp will send a pulse with modulated signal to the mirror on that side to turn on the warning symbol. If the driver starts across the path, sensor will turn off the radio and sound a chime to warn the driver. So it's all part of the lamp. Like I said, it's built into the lamp. Our CAN bus, and it also has a driver that sends a pulse width modulated signal to the light in the mirror. So good to know. And then we can do a voltage test. It's going to check for power and ground. 12-volt square wave. Cruise control range detection sensors. Again, that's going to be the radar. So we can see all that. Requires alignment whenever it's removed and reinstalled, whenever front-end structural repairs are performed, and whenever diagnostic trouble codes indicate that you need to do that. And then we also have for park assist, we have the park assist sensor, which is going to give us all power, ground, and whatnot. And it also tells us numbering system for the park assist sensors allows front and rear. The sensors are numbered in clockwise manner, starting at the left front bumper. The left front sensor, if so equipped, is the number 1 sensor, and then it just goes clockwise around the outside, kind of like TPMS. You always start in the left front. Oh, and then the rear view camera is interesting too. So it's activated when the vehicle is in reverse, and it is just a single coax cable for the camera signal. And then its location is in the center of spare tire. There it is. And then DC voltage test is going to be 10 to 12 volts when the transmission is in reverse. So it doesn't have to be moving, but it has to be in reverse. And then if we were to go into shop key, I will say, as far as CDJR, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram is concerned, a little light on the information in here, but there is some information. So remove and replace. Use the vehicle 2 control modules. Use internal sensor mounted inside the tail lamp assembly. So if we go into parts and labor, and we go to, let's do accessories and equipment. I don't think it's actually in there. Side object detection system, not going to give me parts. We actually need to go into exterior lighting and go into tail lamp assembly. So with blind spot detection, $590. Otherwise, a normal one's $173. So adding that extra radar adds, another $417 to it. And then remove and replace, a whopping 6/10 for both. So doesn't have any sort of requirements for a reset or a relearn. So it's good. Let's go back home. Clear that. And then, for example, outside view camera. That's going to have a calibration as well. So there's your front camera right there in the grill. And then they also have the one up above. There's the rear camera. That's where I got the picture from. See, it's a whole thing. Built inside this whole thing that the wheel goes through. And then there's the camera right there and a little coax cable right there. That's what we got. Easy enough. Okay, so that's the Wrangler. Let's go into the Grand Cherokee. That one. And like I said, separate forward-facing camera module and adaptive cruise control module are separate. They're going to Parktronics. Got the sensor wiring test, like I said. It's going to go through. And it's just, in this case, just says test complete. So it would actually go through the test and do stuff, but in this case, not. Okay, forward-facing camera. That's going to be have your calibration there. When the windshield is replaced, remember, got to do that. Got a component test on this one. Going to have those as well. So a couple other things in there. Wiper and washer system. We got the rain sensor. Uses LEDs and photodiodes to detect moisture in the glass of the wipe pattern. Using a limb bus, it sends a message to the body control module to turn on the wipers. The BCM controls the wiper relays. So there you go. Blind spot monitoring sensor. It's going to be a little bit different. I'll have 10 miles an hour on this one. And then exterior lighting, we got a headlamp level sensor, which is necessary. Front sensors in the right front wheel housing, rear sensors on a bracket between the rear suspension cradle and the right rear suspension lower control arm. Good to know. Front and rear level sensors monitor changes in the relative distance between the vehicle body and the front or rear suspension members. Sensors are wired to the advanced front lighting system module on the underside of the right front lamp unit housing, but serves both right and left front lamp units. Sensors are 5-volt potentiometers that send a varying signal based on the position of the body onto the suspension. So it's just got like a little arm that tells it where it is in relation. Cruise control, it's going to be the same pretty much. Yeah, so that's that. And then we will go with the charger. That's going to be pretty much the same stuff. That's security link as well. Okay, and then it's going to look very much the same as the Grand Cherokee. Right? So we got the forward-facing module and the ACC separate. Blind spots separate, Parktronics separate. So it's all going to be pretty much in the same spot. It's pretty much going to have the same stuff. And this one should also have driver aids and ADAS. Yes, it does. This one has adjustable pedals. So it's adjustable pedal motor, which has a 6-pin connector with only two wires. Pedal switch provide both power and ground and reversible DC motor. Switching the polarity changes motor direction. So it runs it forward or backward. And then cycle switch to move pedal forward and back. Meter should show 12 volts in one direction and negative 12 volts going in the other direction. Easy enough. There's a switch for it too. Vehicles with memory, the switch is an input to the memory seat module. The module provides the power and ground to the pedal motor. Logic in the module prevents pedal adjustment while the speed control is set and when the transmission is in reverse. So when it's driving, can't change them while it's driving. That sounds good to me. Not unsafe. Park assist, rear view camera. Once again, that should be very similar. This one's a multiple 6-pin connector instead of just the 1-pin connector. All VIN-specific stuff. I just did that. Rear view camera. Park assist module. We got all the different pin assignments and so on. Good to have. And last, we'll check in repair information real quick. Let's just do that RT. Okay, fine, a GT. Well, give me that option then. Okay, so this has a few more things in there. So forward-looking radar sensor. That's going to have some after repair information as well. So that's your alignment. And that's going to talk about how you have to adjust it. Rotate the vertical adjustment ball stud that secures the sensor to the mounting bracket as necessary to center the bubble of the spirit level between two center marks on the vial and level located on top of the vertical alignment tool. So there you go. And then let's see if we got parts. $2,400 for a radar. Includes module. Good to know. 2.6 hours to replace and align it. So good to know. Good to know. All right. So that is ADAS on CDJR. And with that, that's our time here today. So make sure you tune in for new diagnostic content every week. We'll be premiering a new video every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time, so make sure to check it out here on our YouTube channel. Please make sure you also subscribe, thumbs up, and ring that little notification bell so you'll know anytime we post new content. With that, time for questions. Now, if you have any questions, once again, if you're watching this on the premiere, just leave it in the live chat and we'll do our best to answer those. Otherwise, leave a comment under the video and we'll get to those as we monitor those comments as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to learning a little bit more about how you might be able to be more efficient at diagnosing vehicles using some of the information that we've been giving you today. Hopefully we'll see you next week and we'll see you on any of our other videos. Have a good week. Have a good night. and take care.